Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. If you're the kind of person who loves taking complex, messy mysteries and breaking them down into clear, structured facts, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're setting the stage for a completely objective, data-driven deep dive into a massive event, the May 2026 U.S. Department of War disclosures. Basically, they just released 162 newly declassified UFO files. We're talking documents, videos, and images that the public has literally never seen before. So we're going to look at exactly what these files say, what the hard data shows, and what it all actually means for us. Okay, let's dive right into this, with a transmission that sounds like it was pulled straight out of a sci-fi script. The year is 1965. American astronaut Frank Borman is about 4.5 hours into the Gemini 7 spaceflight when he radios Houston with this really eerie, unexplainable message. He says, bogey at 10 o'clock high. Now, in military terms, a bogey means an unidentified aircraft or missile, right? It's a word you use during wartime down on Earth. It makes absolutely no sense in the vacuum of space. Ground control actually asked if it was just the spacecraft's booster, but Borman confirmed he could see the booster completely separately. Something else was out there with him.
Chapter 1. The Modern UFO Mystery.
So to understand how we got to that point, and more importantly, why the government has suddenly released this massive cache of files today, we really need to look at some modern encounters that completely challenge our basic understanding of physics. Take this absolutely wild encounter from 2023 at an undisclosed U.S. location. Over the course of 2 days, 3 different federal teams, 6 highly trained agents in total, swore they observed a massive glowing orange orb just hovering in the sky. And it gets weirder. They reported seeing smaller, red orbs launching right out of it, almost like a mothership deploying tiny aircraft, before the whole thing vanished in seconds. Then, 2 years later in 2025, senior intelligence officers flew a helicopter out to that exact same spot. They spotted another orb, but as they approached, the thing instantly jumped 20 miles away. I mean, it moved so fast the helicopter couldn't even track it. Now, these aren't stories from random internet forums, right? These are sworn statements from federal agents. And they are just a tiny fraction of the sheer volume of previously secret files the U.S. government just dropped at war.gov/UFO. We're talking about 162 distinct files. This massive data dump includes Pentagon reports, FBI documents, State Department cables, and some unprecedented visual evidence. Specifically, 28 videos and 14 images that have been completely locked away from the public until right now. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer physical impossibility of the data being recorded. Just think about these specific sightings from 2023 and 2024. Over in Greece, an infrared military sensor captured an object just hovering above the ocean surface, taking sharp 90-degree turns at 80 miles per hour. I mean, basic physics and the laws of inertia dictate that this is virtually impossible for any known human aircraft. In Iraq and Syria, objects moved at blinding speeds, specifically to evade surveillance. In Japan, an Indo-Pacific team recorded a massive football-shaped object with 3 really strange projections. They all follow the exact same pattern. They appear, they totally defy physics, and then they vanish. If you're trying to make sense of this whole phenomenon, laying out the hard data like this is where the real investigation begins.
Chapter 2. Sightings Beyond Earth.
But as we kind of hinted at the beginning, these phenomena aren't just limited to our own atmosphere. We literally have to expand the scope of this mystery outward to fully grasp what the government has been cataloging. The declassified files actually contain shocking details from the Apollo moon missions. Back in 1969, Buzz Aldrin reported seeing flashing lights inside the Apollo 11 cabin and a massive sparkling laser-like light out on the moon. Apollo 12 astronauts reported unusual light particles near their landing site. But maybe the most shocking revelation is from Apollo 17 in 1972. A photo captured 3 distinct dots flying in a tight triangular formation right above the lunar surface. And get this, the 2026 preliminary analysis from the U.S. government admits a pretty staggering possibility. They noted that these dots could indeed be physical objects.
Chapter 3. The Hidden Pattern.
So are we looking at localized anomalies, or is there a bigger, hidden picture? This is a crucial pivot for us. We're going to guide you away from the awe-inspiring sci-fi nature of these mysteries and towards some very grounded geographical logic. When you plot these thousands of sightings on a global map, from the Cold War right up to today, a glaring pattern emerges. UFOs consistently appear right where the U.S. military is most active. We see these incredibly tight clusters around conflict zones and military hubs: the Western United States, Iraq, Syria, the Strait of Hormuz, Japan, and Greece. It's not random at all.
And this brilliantly illustrates a critical question you just have to ask yourself. Just like in the movies where the alien mothership always seems to mysteriously hover over New York City, we have to ask, do aliens specifically target U.S. military bases? Or is there a much simpler Earth-based pattern at play here? Keep that question in the back of your mind as we keep going.
Chapter 4. History of the Hype. To actually answer that question, we need to flash back to the mid-20th century. We need to trace the exact roots of modern global UFO hysteria and see how a single misunderstanding literally birthed a cultural phenomenon. So the modern era of UFOs kicked off in June 1947, when a pilot named Kenneth Arnold saw 9 shining objects moving incredibly fast. When reporters asked him what they looked like, Arnold didn't actually describe their shape. He described their movement. He said they moved like a saucer would if you skipped it across the water. But the media completely misunderstood him. They printed huge headlines about flying saucers and forever changed our cultural vocabulary. A few weeks later, the infamous Roswell crash happened. By 1952, unexplained objects swarmed the skies over Washington, D.C., showing up on official government radar. The hype got so intense that the U.S. government had to launch Project Blue Book just to investigate it all.
So, the crucial point here is this. From 1952 all the way to 1969, Project Blue Book investigated over 12,000 UFO sightings, and they successfully explained the vast majority of them. They were weather balloons, airplanes, satellites, or natural celestial bodies. But out of all those files, exactly 701 cases could not be explained. 701 incidents remain totally, officially unidentified.
Chapter 5. The Rational Explanations. For decades, those 701 unsolved cases, along with Roswell, of course, fueled the belief that we were being visited by extraterrestrials. But it's time to replace the ET theories with the declassified earthly realities that these new files finally confirm. Let's look at the myth versus the reality of Roswell for a second. The sensational claims were that an alien spaceship crashed and alien bodies were recovered, right? Well, the declassified reality is a bit different. The U.S. Air Force was actually running a highly classified Cold War program called Project Mogul. They were using advanced spy balloons to secretly monitor Soviet nuclear tests, and one of these top-secret balloons crashed in Roswell. As for the alien bodies, a 1997 report confirmed they were actually Air Force test dummies, essentially mannequins used for high-altitude drop tests. Makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Honestly, the evidence stacking up against the alien hypothesis is overwhelming. In early 2024, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARO, released this incredibly comprehensive report investigating claims from 1945 all the way to 2023. Their conclusion was definitive. There is absolutely zero evidence of extraterrestrial technology. Zero. Instead, they found that the vast majority of UFO sightings are weather balloons, top-secret advanced spy planes, enemy drones, satellites, rockets, and natural astronomical phenomena. Let's apply this logic back to the modern sightings we discussed earlier. Remember that massive football shape in Japan? Or that 2023 glowing orange mothership over the US? Well, these perfectly match the profiles of modern surveillance drones. Defense analysts note that China has actively developed high-altitude spy balloons, just like the one shot down over the US back in 2023, as well as advanced mothership drones that are actually capable of carrying hundreds of smaller craft. And this is exactly why this matters to you today. It's not about little green men. It's about national security. The reason these objects are clustered around military zones is simple. Foreign adversaries are actively spying on advanced U.S. military technology using highly sophisticated drones. But wait, what about the astronauts? Well, they actually provided their own very logical explanations for what they saw. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin theorized that the weird flashes in the Apollo cabins were simply sunlight leaking through window covers or atomic particles striking their retinas, which is a known documented space phenomenon. Aldrin even stated that the laser-like light he saw on the moon could have easily been a brilliant solar reflection just bouncing off a smooth, glassy surface back down on Earth. These are logical, totally mundane realities of operating in space. No aliens required. Chapter 6. Transparency versus Conspiracy. Which brings us to a truly fascinating sociological question for our final section. If the government has known for decades that these were just spy balloons and test dummies, why on earth did they allow the UFO myth to persist for so long? Well, it basically comes down to a brilliant, albeit pretty deceptive government strategy. During the Cold War, the U.S. simply could not afford for the Soviet Union to know about Project Mogul or their advanced spy planes like the U-2 and the SR-71 Blackbird. Allowing the public and the global media to believe in flying saucers and aliens served as the absolute perfect cover. By letting the UFO myth flourish, the CIA and the military could test advanced, block-budget aircraft in plain sight. If someone saw a top-secret jet, they just called it a UFO, and the government secret remained safe.
However, weaponizing mystery definitely has a cost. The former chief of the ARO office explicitly warned that releasing raw data dumps of UFO files without proper context is incredibly dangerous. It fuels pseudoscience and deep political conspiracies. For instance, our source material notes a compelling sociological analysis of this recent 2026 release. It impartially points out that the Trump administration allegedly utilized these UFO file disclosures specifically to distract the media news cycle away from other controversies, like the Epstein files. It really highlights how the UFO phenomenon is so often used as a tool for misdirection rather than actual scientific discovery. And this all builds to our final thought. The true story of the US UFO files isn't really about little green men from another galaxy. It is a story about Cold War paranoia, cutting-edge military surveillance, and the sheer power of human imagination when faced with the unknown. When the government hides the truth to protect its secrets, the public naturally fills the void with myths. So, I want to leave you with this to ponder. Does mystery thrive where transparency is absent? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep looking at the data, and I'll catch you next time.